I better wait for the recording to start. Thank you very much. Good morning. Can I welcome all members and officers to this meeting of Cabinet Committee Corporate Parenting, which will be held as a hybrid meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as is practicable following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting either from Council Chamber or from a remote location. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Members have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and I will ask officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their microphones and, where remote, their cameras on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as the chair, at all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference and to ensure that the connection remains as stable as possible. Whether in the chamber or remote, if any members or officers wish to raise a point or a question, they should press the hands up icon on the screen hand at the top right hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order I receive requests. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking, although I say that and now it lowers itself for you after you've spoken. The chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting. Where necessary, they will mute those not being used. I would also ask the officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use, please. I will now proceed to the agenda business. First item on the agenda this morning is any apologies for absence. Do we have apologies for absence, please? Mike?
Thank you, Chair. I've got apologies from Councillor John Spanswick and Councillor Rees-Good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mike. Moving on, do I have any declarations of interest, personal or prejudicial, from any members or officers in accordance with legislation, Members' Code of Conduct? No, moving swiftly on. We're going to get through this meeting very quickly this morning, aren't we? Approval of the minutes. Please can I have Cabinet Member to propose and move the minutes, please?
Move.
Thank you very much. Councillor Williams, can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blundell. And we'll move on to item number 4, the update on corporate parenting development. Can I invite Steve Berry to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning members. My name's Steve Berry and I'm the Corporate Parenting and Participation Officer for Bridgend County Borough Council. The purpose of my role is to ensure the development of corporate parenting across not only the council but also the partners, assuring that people are aware of their responsibilities to our care experienced children, young people and care leavers. So the purpose of today's report is to provide you with an update on corporate parenting development. As you'll be aware, my post came into fruition in May and we had a real revitalised push across the council and partners for corporate parenting, with a programme seeking to get to the point where we have a shared vision and a programme of work for the future. So this report essentially states that we're now in a position where we have subgroup meetings happening on a quarterly basis, with our board meeting fully integrated with our partners multi-agency. And basically we are in a position now where we have our strategy ready to launch next Thursday. That's Thursday the 27th of April, 2 till 4 at the Heronston. All of you are going to receive an update on your diary marker, which will be an invite this afternoon. And within that invite, you will see a programme for the event, and you will also see the new strategy with it being designed, and also with it having translation into Welsh as well. So I would urge you to have a look through the strategy, and please do, if possible, make yourselves available to come across to the Heronston to be able to see what the strategy is all about. And the best thing about our launch is that it will be facilitated by our care experienced young people and our care leavers. We also have a special guest in the Children's Commissioner for Wales, Rocio Cifuentes, who will be talking to us about children's rights and all of our responsibilities to all of our children and young people. So coming back to the report then, the appendices is listing the actual strategic document. Those are the words that are placed in our newly designed strategy, but it's far more young person friendly with images, and it's broken up, and you will see that this afternoon when it's sent out with the invite. But essentially it's explaining who we are, what we're going to do, what our priorities are, and how we're going to measure what's good and what we need to do in the future. I also like to point out the fact that we have 45 promises within the strategy, and those are our commitments as multi-agency professionals, leaders and senior managers, saying what we will do in our individual roles to support our care experienced children, young people and care leavers, and we will be held to account by our youth forum. And there are measures put in place by the forum to be able to be supported to question any of these promises and how we're doing along the way, with the support of Trosgynol or TGP Cymru, who are our advocacy providers, and they facilitate the forum along with myself. So essentially, this is for information and for celebration, the fact that we are now at a point to come together with our partners to really focus down on our responsibilities for our care experienced young people around the focused areas of our priorities. That essentially is all I need to share on the report, unless there are any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Steve. I suppose I should comment, really. And I suppose my comment would be that I'm really excited by all this. I may not sound it quite slightly at the minute, but it's been quite a journey to get where we are. I'm really pleased to hear that we have such a robust mechanism in place now for our children and young people to be heard and listened to. You know, it's about acting on what they want and what they need for their lives to be fruitful. And I think the other thing that I would say is it was really interesting when we started this journey that other organisations who had responsibility for corporate parenting didn't really understand what their responsibilities and duties were, and they are much more engaged now, and we have much more of a focus on what we need to do for our care experienced young people. I'd invite any questions from those in attendance, please. Well, there we are. Can I have a mover and a seconder from Cabinet, please?
Moved, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farr.
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blundell. You've got off lightly today, Steve. No questions. I look forward to seeing everybody next week when they all attend our event. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Steve.
Thank you.
Right, so we will move swiftly on to my support team, or MIST as it is called, and Residential and Therapeutic Review. I know that Laura is going to introduce this report, but also in the chamber we have Daniel Bolton, who we have employed as our registered individual and our principal officer in residential children's care. And I just wanted to express my thanks to him for joining our team. It's a really exciting time, but over to you, Laura. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the whole report, but just to outline for committee that this report provides you with an update on some further developments in our placement service, particularly our residential provision in Bridgend and the therapeutic support that we offer to our care experienced children. As outlined in the report, last autumn we submitted a bid to Welsh Government under the Eliminating Profit agenda to further enhance our existing provision and developments. and the models that we were hoping to expand on, and those are described in more detail in the report, and we can respond to any questions in relation to that. As outlined, we've also secured funding to expand the staffing establishment across our residential provision in Bridgend, so that we can have a greater skill set and more experience in the staff cohort for the homes that we currently provide to care experienced children. We are also going to develop a missed service for children placed in residential and with in-house foster carers in Bridgend. As outlined in the report, MIST is about creating a team around the child that will assess their needs, identify the best option for permanence, and wrap around support to achieve it. Before finalising the model, we have commissioned IPC, the Institute of Public Care, to review our existing approaches that we've delivered to date, and we've asked them to recommend how we can maximise the funding to build on what we're already doing and provide more support for children and young people with complex needs who need intensive interventions to overcome trauma. We're aiming to register our new provision, Meadows View, by June 2023, with the building being ready to be handed over to us in April and it being fully furnished by June and ready, hopefully, for us to open with the new team in place. So I'm now going to conclude my presentation and go over to questions from committee that either myself or Daniel Bolton, the responsible individual, will respond to.
Thank you very much, Laura. For me, I've obviously read the report. I think that the trauma-informed model is an excellent model of good practice. I think it's very flexible to work with the increase in demand and the complexity of cases that we currently see. And I'm really pleased to see that our Meadows View, don't ask me to say it in Welsh, I know I should be able to say it in Welsh, but I still can't, was named by Bridgend children. And I think that's really important, that they have ownership over their own home, because essentially that's what it's going to be for them. I think the only bit of concern that I have, and I haven't even spoken to Claire about this, so she's going to have a surprise as well shortly, and that is that I'm concerned that we're only offering our contracts for the new staff for 2 years. And that's because I don't know how you're supposed to plan your life around 2 years. We need it to be sustainable, and I can't imagine that we're going to not need those staff after that 2-year period. So I think that's something that we will need to manage appropriately. I am going to bring Claire in because she's already getting ready to respond to me. But before I ask for any further questions, thanks very much, Claire.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader, for the question or the comment, I think, in terms of how we employ the workforce. I think a couple of things for me in terms of this report. We brought a previous inspection report into Cabinet Corporate Parenting Committee, didn't we, in terms of Maple Tree House. And obviously that was quite a difficult report for us to bring in. And it was really important as a council, as a provider of social care services, that we understood and took some time to understand what we need to have in place to properly operate in a safe way, in a very outcome-focused way, a trauma-informed way, children's residential care. I'm very pleased that we're doing that, supported independently by the Institute of Public Care, and Laura's referred to that piece of work, because that is really a root and branch review about how we provide that therapeutic support, and critically for us, what management and leadership and workforce that we need. So the appointment of Daniel, and I hope he'll have the opportunity to speak to committee this morning, is really critical for us in Bridgend to have that dedicated RI who can spend all of their time focused on that quality, but also enhancement of the staffing establishment. That was what some of the key lessons for us, that you need the right level and numbers of staff working across the 24/7 period, working to the right therapeutic model, but that we build in that resilience. And all of these assurances we need to give to CIW as part of the registration process. In terms of the way that we employ staff, we obviously put forward budget pressures, which Council approved in terms of the budget setting for this year, which has enabled us to put in place the best permanent workforce that we can. But we're also flexibly using that eliminating profit money from Welsh Government, which at the moment is 2-year grant funding. So, you know, it's always very difficult, and it's not just this service, there's many services in the county borough which are reliant on grant funding, which doesn't have a lifespan beyond the initial allocation through to us. What it will be beholden on us as a service to do is to make sure that we've got a financial sustainability plan. We would envisage that we would be reducing the number of children who have to move out of county into expensive independent sector residential care homes as a consequence of this provision. We would be envisaging that sustainably we will be reducing the number of children who will require long-term residential care support, because through that intensive assessment approach and therapeutic approach, we would hope that for them to be able to live within foster families in the county borough as we move forward. So it's really imperative on us to use that budget most effectively over this couple of years to get to a position where we've got that sustainable long-term contracts for our workforce, but that we reduce those costs in other parts of the system, because we would see this as being both the most effective but also most cost-effective option for our children and young people. But know that the challenges of short-term grants are considerable. Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much, Claire, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Do we have any questions, please? The leader has a question. He has, I don't know. Yeah, there we are. Come on, leader.
Thank you, Chair, Deputy Leader. I was going to ask about welcome the report. I wanted to ask about the relationship and partnership with Cwm Taf University Health Board, because obviously some of the support we're going to provide, it needs to be seamless, doesn't it? And I think we'd recognise, I'm sure you can confirm, the part this is about meeting the health needs of these children and young people, and we would want to do that together so that that support is seamless when it can be. So I'd be interested in more information about that work we're doing with partners in the health board.
Thank you, leader. Laura, are you still there? Yeah.
I am. Yeah. Okay. So one thing we have recognised really is that in terms of the all the services that we've provided to date in our residential provision to address children's sort of emotional well-being and those aspects of their health needs have been provided by the local authority, and that we do want to enhance those further, and we will need engagement from the health board in order to achieve that. So that is one of the things that we've flagged with IPC as an area that we'd like them specifically to consider as well. So we've already identified that the health board, and particularly CAMHS services, are a key stakeholder in that respect, and they are going to be involved in that review and the recommendations in terms of how we can deliver the services moving forward, and the part they'll play in that as well. So they are at the table, basically, leader, is what I'm saying at the moment. They haven't made any actual commitment in terms of what services they will provide, but they are going to participate in that review and any recommendations we reach.
Thank you very much, Laura. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, thank you for that, Laura. I welcome that, and it is a related point, and even if it's not related, I'm going to make it anyway because I think it's an important one. I do wonder whether or not, as part of our work as a corporate parenting committee, we think about bringing the health board into a meeting to talk to them about what they can do with us, because it is about working together, and with other partners about supporting the health, and specifically the mental health of our children and young people, and that might be an opportunity to help influence that, because of course, as well as all the statutory responsibilities, and they have statutory responsibilities to all children and young people in the county borough, and other responsibilities, they, like us, have a specific responsibility as corporate parents, and I think it would be helpful to sit down in a meeting and discuss with them how they're discharging those responsibilities with us. And I'm happy as well, Chair, to move or second the report if it hasn't been already in terms of the recommendations. So very happy to move the recommendations, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm going to bring in Claire to respond to you.
Yeah, I think those are really important points, actually. So in terms of the previous report that we heard, the commitments from all partners are really clear. And the board beneath this committee, which is chaired by the Deputy Leader, has really good representation, actually, at quite a senior level from all those partners. And I would envisage going forward that all of those partners would come in turn into the formal Cabinet Committee to set out how they're delivering against their commitments. In terms of the specifics around this report and the involvement of health, I think it's really important that the engagement in that IPC work actually results in an outcome where they're really clear what their contribution is in terms of professional leadership and clinical oversight of the services delivered. We spend a lot of time with Welsh Government in terms of this agenda, and they highlight examples of good practice from elsewhere in Wales, where the input of health boards is very strong. In very practical terms, in terms of similar residential provisions that are being developed. And that would be, I think, our expectation of our health board. We've got a number of mechanisms from that in addition to the review of IPC. There's the Regional Partnership Board, which Councillor Gebby chairs, which has got a children's partnership as part of that, and developing residential provision is one of the key priorities through that residential partnership. So it wouldn't be just ourselves, it would be Merthyr and Rhondda and TAF who would want the health boards to be clear about their input. We've also got an upcoming set of meetings at a very senior level with Health Board, in which we'll be talking about our priorities, and priorities for our children and young people will be right up there. And this is where they need to be sort of flexing the way they deliver services for our most vulnerable children as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring Daniel in, but just to say that I do agree with all the comments that have been made, and I'm quite happy to have any partner in here so that we can scrutinise and interrogate really what their plans are. I think that would be really useful, but I'll go over to Daniel now. Thank you, Daniel.
Yes, just to touch on what the leader was saying, the next part of the IPC review is going to be a workshop or a feedback session with CAMS have been invited along with education as well. So it's getting them in a room at this next part of the review.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Daniel. Do I have any other questions, please? Oh, the leader's got another one.
Just wanted confirmation that this model, obviously there's specific reference to the new provision at Bryn Menyn. I'm also going to avoid the use of the Welsh name because I will get it wrong, but wanted confirmation that this model will be rolled out across all our children's residential provision, please.
I can give you that reassurance, Leader. Without even going to officers, it's really important that we have one model of practice and we all work in the same way. That's the whole purpose of working behind signs of safety as well. And it also means that our staff and our children, whoever they are being managed by, supported by, living with, they will all be managed and supported in the same way. Laura.
Yeah, I think what I wanted to add as well, is someone, oh, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, it's echoing this end. Just to say as well, as indicated in the report, what we're going to develop the MIST service for children placed in residential homes, but also fostering provision as well with our in-house foster carers. So again, I wanted to emphasise that in relation to the consistency of care and sort of the offer is going to be the same for all of our children, and so that it will be seamless then in terms of transitions, hopefully to permanent options with our foster carers as well. So yeah, that is definitely the aim.
Thank you for that reassurance as well, Laura. Are there any other questions? Councillor David.
Thanks, Chair. Oh.
That's not good.
from behind as well. Oh, Laura's got it.
Right. We don't know what's on, but we've got an IT issue. So please bear with us. Oh, no, we've lost all the
She's
script.
back on behind.
Yeah, sorry, we lost all the screens in the chambers for a minute, so apologies, please bear with us. Councillor David.
I've spoken about, and we've spoken about, the role of the health board and partners in health. The other key agency often in a child and young person's life is their educational provider, and we do know that many of these children will often be pupils at our specialist provision because of the nature of their needs. So I wanted to check as well what plans we have in place to work with our specialist educational provision with Ysgol Bryn Castle, Heronsbridge and the Bridge to ensure that that approach that we take, that model that we adopt, is a model that is consistent across that young person's life, if possible, because I know we recognise that a big part of a child's life is in school and education, and what we want is for that to be complementary and consistent in its approach. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Leader. Just for your reassurance, as part of our corporate parenting strategy, one of the things that we're doing is delivering signs of safety. So that practice model will go to all organisations, so a basic level of understanding about the way we work. One of the reasons is that we give a more positive experience for that young person if all practitioners are managing in the same way. Laura?
Yeah, and just to add, really, Leader, what we did is when we pulled this grant application together last autumn, we did involve colleagues from the Education and Family Support Directorate. They worked on it with us, and we did explore. There was some exploration in terms of whether we wanted to develop, whether we needed to develop some on-site, if you like, education provision up in Meadows View. We did put in a suggestion that was an option, but we didn't have enough funding to pursue that. We're not actually convinced that we need that, because really what we prefer for our care experienced children is for them to attend one of our existing settings as well, and spend time with other children outside of the home they're living in as well. But no, they are definitely involved in this with us, and so whilst we won't be developing education provision, there's already involved in the conversations about the development of the MIST service and know about the bid, and they will be invited to that stakeholder event that Daniel referred to earlier, and I'm sure they'll then invite colleagues from the particular schools that you've referenced, because I agree it's those schools primarily that we are in contact with.
Thank you very much, Laura. Okay, are you happy now?
Yeah, thanks so much, Laura. That's reassuring, and it's about having that shared approach, isn't it, to those children and young people, because as Laura's confirmed, many of these children will go to a small number of schools. So actually, that it makes it easier, doesn't it, in terms of having that shared approach and that consistent approach. Thank you, Chair.
Do I have any more questions, please? No, I have a mover. Can I have a seconder, please? Anyone from Cabinet?
Sorry, Chair, I thought I did move the report. If not, I'll move it again.
Oh, no, the Leader moved it. If you can second it, that would be great. Thank you.
I'll second it. Thank you.
Great. If we've got no further questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, implementation of Bridgend Exploitation Prevention Panel. And just before I bring Marissa in, thank you very much, Laura, and to Daniel. Marissa.
Good morning, all. I have a short presentation to share with you, if that's allowed, or I'm happy to just speak to it.
No, I'm happy for you to share a short presentation.
Okay,
Thank you, Marissa.
I hope you can all now see this screen. Okay, so for Bridgend, we want to establish a coordinated multi-agency approach to our responses to children that are at risk of exploitation or who are being exploited. And in order to do that, we need to have a multi-agency approach to the work that we do, which will include our police, YOS, health, education, all those agencies that we currently work with and more. So we would be looking to bring in faith groups, local taxi firms, people that we wouldn't normally engage with, to ensure that we are getting a coordinated approach to the work that needs to be done with exploited children. We want to offer a range of services and tools to children, and we've developed some of those tools which support working directly with children through the lens of exploitation. So it's not so necessarily the harm that's happening inside the home. We want to look contextually at the harm that is happening outside of the home. And in order to do that, we need to bring on our parents and use them as partners in the work that we do and add them to the professional network. So what we're hoping to do, and I like to read out this point because I think it's really important. Firstly, we need to understand the context of Bridgend and recognise that exploitation is a hidden harm. So there is a power in the collective. We need to dispel and disrupt the secretive, coercive, damaging influence perpetrators have on our children. The children and families of Bridgend need to be armed with knowledge, support and advice in order to identify often subtle changes in their children's behaviours. Hidden harm can no longer remain hidden. Groomers, perpetrators and those who are seeking to gain from the exploitation of children need to be held accountable for their actions. So this really puts the focus on the disruption measures that need to be implemented, that we're not always focusing on putting the intervention and the work in with the children, but we're looking at our parks, our open spaces, our schools and our environment to see what disruption needs to happen in the wider community to support our children to keep them safe. There are two strands at the moment. There is the strategic group and work that is going on there, and then there is the operational work that is currently going on. And operationally, we have developed a screening tool, and there is also a national tool that's being developed. I won't go into that too much because this is what's the real focus for us, is that at the front door now, we have created a MASH screening tool, and it's very much a quick view from an exploitation lens around, is this child or family at risk of exploitation? And it allows social workers and practitioners to view the child through that lens and to do a quick shot screening. If it's identified at that point, it then moves on to an exploitation assessment. That's a much more in-depth assessment that is undertaken alongside the care and support assessment work that's undertaken. And that really allows you to explore in more detail the level of exploitation. And with that, we use something called the Vault, which always looks at the child firstly as a victim, because that's what they are. It will always look at their offending behaviour, because many of them do offend. It will concentrate on locations and themes. So the locations will support us to look at where we may need to put in our disruptive measures for children. The panel is going to be the most effective and most important part of this process. So the exploitation panel, which we're hoping will begin in May of this year, will be a multi-agency panel where social workers will come and present the children that they work with and talk about the issues that those children and families are faced with. And then the multi-agency will put forward a number of recommendations to support that family. There will continue to be exploitation strategy discussions, there's child protection strategy discussions, and there are equally exploitation and missing strategy discussions. I have provided direct intervention work programmes that is a 6 to 12 week programme of intervention for children that social workers can apply and use directly with children to gain their wishes and feelings, to understand better what's happening in their worlds. We are looking to develop contextual CP plans and care and support plans, which again will look through the lens of exploitation. Network meetings is also something that we would like to introduce, and the network meetings are a real quick, fast turnaround meeting. We know that our children, particularly our teenagers, are always 10 steps ahead of us. So we need to join them and we need to catch up with them. And the only way we can do that is by having on the ground fast meetings that are coordinated with our YOS, with our police and social care as those primary aim people. Equally reaching out to our hospitals. If a child turns up at hospital with an unexplained injury, or what they say they fell off a railing, but in fact could be a stab wound, serious youth violence is evolving, and it is something that we need to take incredibly seriously. I've equally developed a set of training and development tools for our workforce to help them understand exploitation, to use language that doesn't harm and language that doesn't adultify our children and young people. The exploitation panel will feed into a pre-MACE, and from pre-MACE that will feed into MACE, where we could look more strategically at what needs to be implemented within the local authority. So the next slide is just basically explaining the previous slide. This is how we would like it to look. Community partnership is essential for this to work, as is police, education, housing and health, and of course social care. And we have rolled out a suite of introductory sessions around the panel. It's been really warmly received, very highly attended. People are very excited about this being implemented and wanting to move this strategy forward. So I won't again go over this. This is just that it is a multi-agency approach. We will be looking at children at risk of child sexual exploitation, criminal exploitation, gang affiliation and serious youth violence, and trying to coordinate an approach that supports these young children to move away from those very disruptive behaviours. So far, we've employed 2 senior practitioners to work within our IAA and MASH service. We've engaged with key partner agencies, and we've created a date to start our exploitation panel. There is a suite of tools available to our social workforce, and we have agreed a pathway of exploitation as well as training schedule for the year coming. So that is the end of my very quick presentation. I hope I've not rushed through it too quickly, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Thank you very much, Marissa. I'm not excited because I think that would be the wrong word, but I am exceptionally pleased to see this strand of work taking some shape. I would ask sort of for some clarity. I think it's all right as a social services using that tool. Is it being used in early help? And I also want to ask if it's being used in A&E, because it's regional strategy. The inspection picked up that this was something not just for us, but it was for all partners. So I suppose that's what I'm looking for some reassurance for.
I'm certainly in conversations with early help. They're very much on board, and they want to utilise the same tools that we're using so that there is a seamless path through. So that work is currently underway. We'll reach out to the hospitals as well.
Oh, right. Thank you very much. That was very tactful of you, Marissa, is what I wanted to say. Do I have any questions? Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Great, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned at the start about parental involvement in all of this. So I was wondering how you're planning on getting parental engagement into all of this. As a chair of governors of a school, I know when we do have workshops for parents, we normally have about 5 or 6 turn up, and that's a school of 480 odd children. And it's always normally the parents who don't need to be involved who turn up to these workshops. And as a parent of 2 teenagers and a 10-year-old, I know that mobile phone use has increased, and I'm concerned, and I know we've done several talks in the primary school about the age limits on a number of these apps, and yet parents are still allowing children, and these are children as young as 7, 8, to go on WhatsApp and other chats. And so the chance of exploitation is progressing, and yet we're trying to get parents to step in and look at their phones and to prevent children doing this, but it's not happening. So how do we engage with parents to try and, because every parent wants their child to be safe.
Absolutely.
How can we do that? Thanks.
So it is a challenge, and the work that I created and undertook in another local authority really focused on parental engagement, and we ran a weekly group, and it was an evening group online that any parent could come and join. We had weekly presenters coming in and talking about what their area of service offered, and then the second half of the session was open to parents to talk about their own thoughts and feelings. This was in particularly a very challenging area in London where exploitation was rife. We did a lot of work with children around clean skins. We did a lot of work, like you say, online strategies to safeguard our children. Part of the training that I've developed has a number of slides that focus in on all of the current apps, how they target our children, what parents can do, apps that parents can get to block their children's applications. So the work I'm currently doing with schools, a number of schools have reached out to me and said, Marissa, could you please offer us something? What can we do to support this strategy? And I'm happy to offer that and provide the slides that I have. So it's work in progress, but the hope is that the panel will arm all arms of the professional network to feel confident to deliver this work. It's not just my work, it's everybody's work, and I'm happy to share it far and wide because it's everybody's problem, and it affects every cohort of children. So I hope that answers your question in part, but it's currently under development.
Thank you very much. Is that reassurance for you, Councillor Williams?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marissa. Councillor Pratt, please.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Yeah, just obviously you were talking about community engagement and the taxi trade. I'm wondering whether there have been any plans or any considerations in our nighttime economy around our pubs and nightclubs, publicans and door supervisors. I have no evidence on whether this is a key thing in Bridgend, but I know from my experience working in Birmingham as a door supervisor, we see a lot and know a lot within and outside of criminality. So is there plans for this local authority engage with the nighttime economy so they're free to identify and report any concerns that they have? Thank you.
Yes, that is definitely a strand that we will be utilising. It's the same as our, local supermarkets. We have children that are coerced into stealing to order, so they're being exploited. So developing our relationships much wider in our community is absolutely essential to this strategy working. But everybody needs to sign up to a confidentiality agreement as well to ensure this works. So it's a slow approach, but it certainly will happen. I'm confident.
Thank you very much. Is that reassurance for you, Councillor Pat? Yep, Liberty. Thank you very much. Councillor David, please.
Thank you, Chair. In its most extreme and dangerous form, this is about preventing very serious criminal activity and crimes against children and young people. And as you said, Marissa, quite often it's invisible, isn't it? It's masked, yes. It's hidden. Quite often people will see the young people themselves as offenders because they have been exploited to commit offences, and they're not seen as children or as victims, are actually seen as offenders. And I want to ask about the role of South Wales Police, because I do think this needs to be seen as primarily about children being victims of crime, because this is what it's primarily about. And therefore, whilst there is obviously a crucial role for this authority in terms of safeguarding and social services, there's an equally important role for South Wales Police to make it clear to people, to make it clear to the perpetrators who are exploiting our children and young people that this is a crime, and we will work with South Wales Police to ensure those crimes are detected and we bring those criminals to justice, because that's what we are talking about today, are very serious and dangerous crimes against children and young people. So I would welcome an update in the future, Chair, from South Wales Police, a joint update on what we're doing together, because partnership is essential if we are to make progress in this area, to keeping our children safe. And it's certainly something that I will be raising with the Police and Crime Commissioner of South Wales. I'm not for a minute suggesting that they're not very committed to this, but we need to understand what action they are taking and how we can support each other in this effort to tackle exploitation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm assuming that Claire's going to respond to you because she's put her hand up.
Yeah, and I'm sure Marissa may want to add in as well. But I suppose just to give some assurance, Leader, in terms of the priority that South Wales Police are giving to this agenda. This is one of only 3 priorities for us as a regional safeguarding board. So that shows across the Cwm Taf region. I know it's reflected in other safeguarding boards across Wales how important this is. South Wales Police have actually looked at how they structure and support the work to prevent and to address exploitation, and have created a central resource in their BCU to do that. Linked to South Wales Police is also something called the Violent Prevention Unit, VPU, and we as a safeguarding board have made a bid into that, and I am told only yesterday that they've penciled in the resources for us. So we will have some more strategic resources at a regional level to be progressing and developing the strategy across CTM. None of that means that we can stand still in Bridgend, and hence the work that Marissa has been expertly leading on our behalf across partnerships to make sure that operationally we are where we need to be in Bridgend, because obviously this was an area where we were identified as needing to do some urgent work by our social services inspectorate, but I'm sure other inspectorates would identify the same. So I think on the ground up and strategically down, South Wales Police are putting resource and committed to this agenda. And I would suggest probably 6 months or a year from now, we come back into this committee with partners and set out what progress has been made.
I'd welcome that, Leader.
I would welcome that, and on that, I'm more than happy to move the recommendation, but with the additional action point that does happen, that we do receive a report from partners in, and I think given the seriousness and the scale of the challenge, I think at 6 months would be a timely opportunity to measure our progress, because I'm confident we will make progress, but we need to be reassured as members that we are making that progress in 6 months' time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Leader. Claire, did you want to come back in, or is that a legacy hand? Leader, have you got a legacy hand as well? Are there any more questions for Marissa, please, or Claire? If not, can I have a seconder from Cabinet to move the recommendations, including the addendum from the Leader, that we have a report from partners within a 6-month period?
Second that, Deputy.
Thank you very much. Councillor Williams, Councillor Blundell, whichever one they want to action on. Thank you very much, Marissa, for your time this morning. We are really encouraged by the work that you're doing. And I want to say thank you for coming to Bridgend, because it's such a trek from Haringey.
It really is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marissa. Moving swiftly on, urgent items. I've been notified of no urgent items, so I'd like to draw the meeting to a close and thank everybody for their attendance this morning.